For this lesson, you need to open the sample file Sales Report FP from your Sample Files folder. This lesson introduces the Format Painter. The Format Painter is one of the most useful tools in Microsoft Office. You can use the Format Painter in PowerPoint, Word, and all other Office applications. I find that at least half of the experienced Excel users who attend my classroom courses have never discovered the Format Painter. I love it when they gasp in amazement at the enormous amount of time and effort they'll save in future when using this tool. In this lesson, we're going to take a worksheet that's partially formatted and use the Format Painter to quickly copy formatting information, as opposed to values, from one cell to another. Let's look at the value in cell B5, 762.6. This would look much better with a 0, 762.60. And let's look at the value in cell B6, 33,462.58. This would look much better with a comma separator, 33,462.58. Now you'll remember from lesson 4.3 that we can use the comma style to achieve this. To do this, I click in the column header of column B to select the entire column, and then its Home tab on the ribbon, and in the number group, the comma style. And now I have exactly the format I wanted. Now I'd like to apply the same format to the values in column E. Well, of course, I could do that in the same way by selecting column E and then clicking the comma format again, but I'm going to do it in a different way using the Format Painter. First of all, I'll click in a cell that has the correct formatting. I'll click in cell B6. When we use the Format Painter, this is referred to as the source cell. Then I'll click Home tab on the ribbon, Clipboard group, and Format Painter. And notice that the mouse cursor shape has now changed to a paste brush. I'm now going to click and drag across cells E5 to E13. When I use the Format Painter, I'll refer to these as the target cells. So I'll click in cell E5 and then drag down to E13. And when I release the mouse button, you can see that the correct formatting is applied to the cells. Let's do that once again. I'll click on a source cell, click the Format Painter, and then drag down across the target cells to apply the same formatting. Now, as well as number formats, the Format Painter works just as well with text formats. Let's look at the text style in cell A3. It would be nice to apply the same style to cells D3 and D18. So let's do that using the Format Painter. I click in the Source cell, Format Painter, Target cell. Once again, Source cell, Format Painter, Target cell. Now let's look at the text style in cells A4 to B4. I'm going to apply that same style to cells D4 to E4 and D19 to E19, but I'm going to use the Format Painter in a slightly different way. I'll click in cell A4, once again Home tab on the ribbon, Clipboard group, and the Format Painter icon. But instead of clicking once, this time I'm going to double click. So I double click, and once again I have the paste brush icon. I now select cells D4 to E4 and release the mouse button. But unlike last time, I've still got the paste brush. We call this a sticky paste brush, and I can go on to format as many other cells as I want to before switching off the paste brush. So I'll also click and drag across cells D19 to E19. Now it's time to switch off the paste brush, so I'll click Home tab on the ribbon, and in the Clipboard group, the Format Painter icon. and I've now switched off the Format Painter. Let's now apply the total style to cell B26. You'll remember that you learned all about cell styles in lesson 4.9. So I click in cell B26, Home tab on the ribbon, in the Styles group Cell Styles to bring up the Cell Styles gallery, and then I'll click on the Total style. Now I'll use the Format Painter to apply the same total style in cell B26 to cells E13 and E26. So I'll click on the value in cell B26, that's the source cell. I'll double-click the Format Painter icon, click once on cell E13 and once on cell E26. Then I'll click again on the Format Painter icon to switch off the Format Painter. You can now see the enormous amount of time that you'll save when you need to match cell formatting within your worksheets. And remember that the Format Painter doesn't only work with Excel. It will also work with Word, with PowerPoint, with an Outlook email, or any other Office application. All that remains for this lesson is to save your work, and I'm going to save it with the new name, Sales Report FP1. And as usual, I'll save to the folder above my sample files folder. I click Save, and you've now completed lesson 422. Use the Format Painter.